You thought you knew the truth, but betrayal hides in the shadows. Welcome to Betrayal Stories. Subscribe and like so you never miss the next story.
In the quiet hush of the mid-afternoon, a heavy weight settles upon my shoulders, and my heart pounds like a distant drum, echoing through the dark recesses of my being. I find myself seated in the worn leather armchair by the window, engulfed in the twilight solitude that modern life often denies. The room is filled with a soft, fading light, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls, and outside, the world continues its slow dance, oblivious to the ache that grips me so tightly. 4 days ago, I was shaken to my core, struck by a revelation that left me reeling. My world suddenly spun off its axis. I found her, my wife, drunk in our car with her tennis coach on what should have been a peaceful, festive morning around Christmas time. It's a day that should have been a triumph of love and togetherness, but instead it was a bitter reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating power of betrayal. As I try to make sense of it all, I feel that familiar sensation of a heavy chest, as if I've drunk too much coffee and the caffeine's effects are now rushing through my veins, my heart pounding uncontrollably. The nights are long and dreary, and sleep eludes me, clutching at the edges of my consciousness, always just out of reach. I lie in the darkness, haunted by thoughts of what might have been and what now lies broken before me. 4 days ago, I discovered my wife having an affair with her tennis coach. That fateful morning, a day that should have been filled with Christmas cheer, instead left me reeling and heartbroken as I realized the fragility of trust and the devastating power of betrayal. The weight of my discovery left me sleepless and filled with a heavy, uncontrollable heart. As I sat in the quiet solitude wrapped in darkness, I thought back to the days that followed, when things seemed to be improving. I showed her some of the supportive comments from the post I shared on social media, which she thought was somewhere between stages 2 and 3, if you've read it. She deleted him from her life and even changed tennis coaches. Our marriage life and family life showed signs of improvement, and I encouraged her to take trips, a delicate balance of leisure and work, as a means to decompress, to find peace in the quiet solitude that allowed her to heal. Now we find ourselves on holiday, a much-needed respite from the harsh realities of our everyday lives. She asked me to update her WhatsApp, stating that she was rubbish at technology. As I assisted her, my curiosity, a persistent, nagging force, took hold. In the background, I noticed TikTok, a constant presence in her digital life. And I paused, my heart pounding in my chest. There were unread messages, and my mind raced, wondering what dark secrets lay within. That night, I found myself drawn to the world of her phone, a world I had never truly ventured into before. I saw messages from that day between the two of them. Banal stuff like holiday pics, the gorgeous sunsets, the breathtaking landscapes, the delicious meals they shared. I felt a sense of desolation wash over me, as if I was a spectator in my own life, watching as the people I love, the people I thought I knew, slipped further and further away from me. That night, I wrote a letter, filling the pages with the pain and confusion that coursed through me. I revealed to her my knowledge of her betrayal and the distress it had caused me. I expressed my love for her and my hope that we could find a way to rebuild the broken foundation that lay between us. I sealed the letter, and in the quiet solitude of the night, I placed it on our bed, waiting for the dawn to break and reveal the consequences of my actions. Now I find myself once again alone in the darkness, the weight of my worries pressing down upon me. I cannot help but wonder if I've made a mistake, if I've opened Pandora's box and released chaos into our peaceful lives. I feel a sense of loss, a void where love and trust once flourished, now empty and devoid of life. But with every passing day, I remind myself that love is not easily destroyed, and that we are stronger than the pain that threatens to consume us. As I sit here in the fading light, the wind whispers through the trees outside, a mournful, melancholy tune that mirrors the pain that courses through me. I close my eyes, and I can almost feel the warmth of her hand in mine, the love that once bound us together, a beacon of hope in the darkest of nights. And with that, I take a deep breath, and I steel myself for the journey that lies ahead, knowing that love is born from pain, and that I must trust in its power to heal us both. With a heavy heart, I step back, giving her the space she needs, knowing that this distance is necessary for both of us. The air felt thinner, the room colder as she gazes at the blank paper, her thoughts echoing the frost forming on the window panes. "It was just some texts," she responded, in a monotone voice, her eyes refusing to meet mine. I had prepared myself for this moment, knowing the truth would come out bit by painful bit. I remained silent, giving her the time to confide in me, but I didn't reveal the extent of my knowledge or the means of its acquisition. Over the following hours, a torrent of information flowed, a riverside flash flood. She had dinner with him, gotten too drunk at Christmas. She cut him out, but in May, her tennis coach fell ill, and her boss paired them together at a tournament. She hesitated, but didn't say no. They had a few dates, shared a few more than friendly kisses. She was bored on her trip to the lake, and he seemed to have semi-invited himself. They spent that night together. She shifted the blame, unable to take full responsibility. I invited him along to have sex with me, she seemed to struggle to say, her words caught between our silence and her desperation for reconciliation. She tried to paint him as nothing more than a sympathetic, well-dressed listener, distancing herself from the affair, yet her actions suggested otherwise. She was desperate for reconciliation, making the right noises. Therapy for her and a hall pass for me were my conditions for the conversation, the foundation upon which I would consider the potential for a reconciliation. Our marriage life and our family life were otherwise good, but now the focus was on healing. I took a deep breath, steadying my resolve. The pain I felt in my heart was vast, but I knew that love, like the warmth of her hand in mine, was strong enough to heal us both. As I listened to her confession, a thick cloud of disbelief and sadness settled over me, chilling the warmth of her hand in mine. The weight of her words lingered heavy, a cruel reminder of the shattered trust that once held our marriage together. Yet, amidst the despair, there was also a flicker of relief, a validation of the doubts that had been gnawing at me for months. "So this was the truth," I whispered, my voice barely audible, strained with emotions I couldn't quite grasp. He nodded, his eyes sorrowful but determined. "Yes, everything you feared was true. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." A wave of anger surged within me, threatening to consume me. But I fought it back, reminded of the love I had for him, the life we built together, and the children who were still caught in the crossfire. I had to be strong for them, for us. He continued, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've been retraining as a teacher.
for a few years now, working hard to get the qualifications, training placements, even a master's. The smaller one is at a different school from our older one. We're not based in the States. His words seemed to echo in the silence between us, a fragile bridge trying to bridge the chasm that had grown between us. I found myself captivated by the way the world apparently didn't work as I thought it did, how our shared reality had been shattered. Yet, amidst the confusion, there was a strange sense of resilience, a stubborn determination that would not let me break. He said, "I thought about this, about us. I know I was hurt, but I wasn't half as hurt as you were. I didn't feel what you felt. I'm sorry for that too. I'm sorry for everything." His apology hung in the air between us, a stalemate waiting for a resolution. I took a deep breath, my heart heavy, but my resolve unwavering. He was right. The world didn't work as I...
Man reads a book. In absolute despair, 30 years married, wife had affair. 2 days ago, I cried out for help. Today, I've made this update. I had intended to withdraw from contact, but I do so out of respect for many people who have given their time and shared their stories or offered me their best advice as a stranger on the internet. Critical analysis. I made some stylistic changes to make the text more fluid and engaging. I've added dialogue to add more depth to the story, as well as made some minor grammatical and punctuation corrections. The overall structure and content of the text has remained the same. The revised text. 2 days ago, I cried out for help. Today, I've made this update. I had intended to withdraw from contact, but I do so out of respect for many people who have given their time and shared their stories or offered me their best advice as a stranger on the internet. Critical analysis. I made some stylistic changes to make the text more fluid and engaging. I've added dialogue to add more depth to the story, as well as made some minor grammatical and punctuation corrections. The overall structure and content of the text has remained the same. The revised text. 2 days ago, I cried out for help. Today, I've made this update. I had intended to withdraw from contact, but I do so out of respect for many people who have given their time and shared their stories or offered me their best advice as a stranger on the internet. Critical analysis. I made some stylistic changes to make the text more fluid and engaging. I've added dialogue to add more depth to the story, as well as made some minor grammatical and punctuation corrections. The overall structure and content of the text has remained the same. The revised text. 2 days ago, I cried out for help. Today, I've made this update. I had intended to withdraw from contact, but I do so out of respect for many people who have given their time and shared their stories or offered me their best advice as a stranger on the internet. Critical analysis. I made some stylistic changes to make the text more fluid and engaging. I've added dialogue to add more depth to the story, as well as made some minor grammatical and punctuation corrections. The overall structure and content of the text has remained the same. My wife and I discovered that she had been seeing another man for several weeks after I found an SMS. This sent me on a desperate spiral, close to self-destruction. I could see no future without my wife. I posted my pleas in this section, as well as another, in the hope of finding help, but I didn't expect the level of support I received. It was extraordinary. It helped me to know that I was not alone in these difficulties, and the advice given was surprisingly helpful. Out of many responses, only one SMS was unacceptable. This echo in the noise, which I had never heard in any web discussion, was incredibly positive. It provided me with a sense of comfort that I had never felt before on the web. I didn't reply to each lonely participant, but I read each comment carefully, and I took more than one look at most of them. I want to thank all of you, even those who called me naive. Update. They suggested that I clean up my life, but I felt as though my fate was taking on the momentum of a business training, and my emotional trauma was like a catchy slogan.
I was walking on the edge of these conversations, not understanding the gravity of what I was experiencing. The conversations were wonderful, but they were laced with a feeling that I was walking through a forest, searching for a bonfire to warm and heal my broken heart. When I found your person, Stanislav, it was like discovering a rock island, a breath of fresh air and sunlight at the end of a dark tunnel. Our chat turned out to be a deep ocean. Beneath the mask of public forums and mentions, I found layers of support and people who were glad for me. Remembering our shared suffering, I clung to the feet of these counselors, bewildered by their empathy, but willing to provide me with hope and support. Stanislav, I didn't know why you wanted to help me, but I sent 18 hours worth of responses in my desperate struggle for my life. Your message felt like a glimpse of a sunlit day and a promise of hope for my life. It helped me to survive through this trying time. From now on, I no longer participate in the world as Samson, burdened with God's wrath, but as a man who says, "Thank you, God, for giving me evidence that I have not lost hope." He shared with me his sorrows and his 2 children, his tragedies and joys, his sad and joyous snaps, prosperous in his bookshelves, speaking of his love and how it lit his life, even after it had cooled and gone. These tales shook me like thunderclaps. I felt like a privileged witness to their warm relationship and saw the struggles in their hearts during more than a decade. I was also a witness to their contempt and hidden resentment, but his passion hypnotized me. He listened intently, his eyes fixed on her every word, his heart pounding in his chest. The air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. The setting sun cast a warm golden hue over their faces, highlighting every emotion that played across them. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "and I believe there may have been a misunderstanding." His heart leaped at the hope that flickered in her eyes. "A misunderstanding?" he asked, feeling a surge of relief. She nodded, her eyes downcast. "Yes, I think so. I never meant for it to end like this." He felt a wave of gratitude wash over him, but he knew he couldn't be hasty. He had to tread carefully, to give her space to speak her mind. "Tell me what you mean," he said gently, "and I promise I'll listen." She took a deep breath, her hand shaking as she reached for his. He clasped it tightly, feeling a surge of love and hope well up within him. This was a new beginning. He could sense it. He was ready to face whatever came next as long as he had her by her side. "I never want to lose you, darling," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just need some time to sort myself out." He nodded, understanding filling him. "Of course, love. Take all the time you need. But remember, I'm here for you, always." She smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you," she said, leaning into him. "I love you too." And with that, they held each other, their hearts beating in harmony once more. The future was still uncertain, but for now they had each other, and that was enough. With a heavy heart, he stepped away from her, moving towards the bedroom to gather his belongings. The cold and emotional gaze he had seen in her eyes lingered in his mind, sending shivers down his spine. Yet he remained resolute, reminding himself that he was not the one who had broken the vow. He continued packing, his hands shaking as he placed his clothes into his luggage. The thoughts of leaving her, of leaving their life together, were a knife twisting in his gut. But he knew he had to stay strong, for both of them. As he finished packing, she entered the room, her face softened, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't realize the extent of what I had done. I didn't mean to hurt you like this." He looked at her, his heart aching. "I know you didn't," he replied, his voice gentle. "But we both need to understand the gravity of what has happened. We must work hard to rebuild the trust that was broken." She nodded, reaching out to take his hand. "I understand," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I will do whatever it takes to make this right." He smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. They had come a long way, and they still had a long road ahead. But for the first time in days, he felt that they might be able to overcome this. They had a chance to work through this, to save what was worth saving. He leaned in and kissed her gently, whispering, "I love you too." With that, they stepped out of the bedroom, hand in hand, ready to face the future, ready to rebuild their lives, ready to heal. They had been given a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it. As they walked down the hallway, hand in hand, they were greeted by the soft, warm glow of the living room. Books lined the shelves, their spines glowing faintly in the light. The couch, a warm but comfortable place, sat invitingly in the center of the room. She settled into the couch, her head leaning against his shoulder as he sat beside her. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts, each knowing that the journey ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to face it together. He reached over, taking her hand in his, a silent promise of their vow to support each other. And in that moment, they knew that they were stronger together than they ever could have been apart. With renewed hope, they began to plan their future, discussing their dreams and aspirations. They spoke of traveling, of writing novels, of starting a family, and of reconnecting with old friends. They shared their fears and doubts, comforting each other with words of encouragement and love. The night grew darker outside, but inside their hearts burned with a renewed flame. They had been given a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it. Together, they would overcome any obstacle that stood in their way. They would rebuild their lives, heal their wounds, and create a future filled with love, happiness, and endless possibilities.
Man reads a book. Found out my wife cheated 12 years ago, 8 months after we were married. In the heart of a bustling city, nestled between towering skyscrapers and a tranquil park, stood a quaint, whitewashed bistro. This was where fate brought together two strangers, John and Alice, on a sultry summer's evening in 2008. The hum of conversations and laughter mingled with the tantalizing aroma of freshly baked bread wafting from the open-air kitchen, creating a symphony of sounds that added a special charm to the already enchanting ambiance. John, a diligent and ambitious young man, was mesmerized by the captivating beauty that was Alice, a radiant server. They were two strangers whose connection blossomed quietly as days slipped by. The bond grew stronger as autumn left its golden shimmer behind, becoming something more profound than friendship. By the end of the year, as they exchanged promises beneath a canopy of stars, they became forever entwined in the sacred bonds of marriage in September 2012. However, the early years of their union were marred by the ghosts of a past that refused to be silenced. Alice, with her effervescent personality, had nurtured a unique friendship with their boss, Mr. Thompson, while his wife sought an open marriage. This gave Alice the freedom to explore her affections outside their union. Mr. Thompson, resistant to the notion, sought comfort in another, casting a dark shadow on the foundation of their relationship. Many times passed between the silken sheets they shared, with Alice promising it was devoid of any emotional connection. It began as a means for Mr. Thompson to retain faith in his failing marriage, and for Alice, a sense of guilt for his predicament. Even though John initially voiced his discomfort, he chose to trust the woman he loved. Over time, the charming essence of Alice's laughter and lively conversation began to fade, replaced by an icy chill that made John's heart tremble with disquiet each time the thought of Mr. Thompson entered his mind. Yet he suffered in silence for the sake of the love he held dear. On their wedding day, standing before their guests, John found himself torn between the hope of a fantastic future and the lingering doubts that gnawed at the very core of his being. With an unsteady hand, he raised his glass, offering a toast to their future and the promise of many more years of love to come. But beneath the facade of unity, John's heart was troubled, for he could not shake the specter of the past that continued to haunt their idyllic marriage. His mind buzzed with thoughts of the secrets hidden within the tender promises they had made beneath the starlit sky. Unable to comprehend the truth, that underbelly of their bond bore the unmistakable scent of deception. The years following their separation saw a transformation in their lives. Their union, once on the brink of collapse, blossomed into a beacon of strength and mutual understanding.
Fast forward to July 4, 2013, a stark reminder of the past as he found a series of seemingly romantic text messages from his ex on her phone. The messages stirred a whirlpool of confusion within him. "I can't believe I've been this stupid," he lamented, the weight of his past mistakes crushing him. Despite their initial commitment to each other lasting only a year, she maintained that no physical relationship had transpired, merely a web of texts and inappropriate conversations. Their ongoing arguments, combined with John's excessive drinking at the time, left a rift in their relationship. Yet, she found a new job and severed ties with her ex, albeit not entirely. Time healed some of the wounds, and as they grew accustomed to life's constant ebb and flow, they moved forward. Blessed with 3 beautiful children born through multiple rounds of IVF, their lives became a chaotic tapestry of joy and challenges, filled with every parent's dream: a comfortable home, the dream cars, and, after John's hard work, the successful expansion of his business. Their work schedules eventually became less hectic as their children entered school full-time, allowing them to cherish their days together. As the thoughts of their past infidelity would occasionally resurface, John tried to suppress them, focusing on the present and his family's happiness. Life had indeed been a series of ups and downs, but they found themselves standing at the pinnacle of their dreams, enjoying the spoils of their hard work and growing stronger together. Yet, the specter of the past never seemed to fade entirely, always lurking in the shadows, awaiting the right moment to make its presence. As the days dragged on, the revelation consumed John's thoughts. He found himself unable to shake off the dark cloud that had settled over his heart, casting a pall over the otherwise joyous season. The holidays came and went amidst a whirlwind of unspoken tension, awkwardness, and strained smiles. He could see the pain etched upon her face, but she remained silent, insistent that there was nothing more to tell. Determined to uncover the truth, John sifted through the remnants of old memories, each artifact a testament to the long-dead tales of a past that belonged to someone else. As he pored over the fragments of text messages, emails, and social media exchanges, he began to piece together a timeline of events, a historical map that stretched back years. It was a puzzling mosaic of shared meals, whispered secrets, and late-night rendezvous that painted a picture of a connection John never suspected. His trust, once so solid and unshakable, began to crumble beneath the weight of the evidence. The revelation of her infidelity was a bitter pill to swallow, but the knowledge of the feeling she harbored towards Mr. Thompson gnawed at his soul like an insatiable hunger. As the new year approached, John found himself grappling with a torrent of emotions. He was filled with rage, despair, and an unrelenting thirst for answers. Yet he knew that he had to make a choice: to either confront her with the truth and risk tearing their family apart, or to let the matter lie and live in a state of perpetual doubts. It was a decision that would test the very foundations of their relationship, and one that he knew would have far-reaching consequences. John set a date for their conversation, knowing that it would mark an inflection point in their lives. As the moments ticked by and the appointed hour drew near, he could feel the tension building, like a storm brewing on the horizon. He steeled himself, preparing to face the consequences of his decision, unsure of what awaited him on the other side. He knew that whatever the outcome, he could no longer run from the truth, and the specter of the past would finally have to be laid to rest. The door creaked open as John stepped across the threshold, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The air was thick with anticipation, heavy with the scent of her perfume and the familiar smell of their shared home. Her eyes met his, welling with tears, a plea for forgiveness echoing in their depths. He saw the raw desperation in her face, the broken pieces of a shattered trust mirrored there. She reached out to him, her hand trembling, and he hesitated for a moment, the weight of their past hanging between them like a dark cloud. "It's not just about her cheating," he said, his voice hoarse. "It's about the lies, about the years of deceit that have built a wall between us. I can't ignore that." Her breath hitched as she folded her arms, her shoulders caving in. "I know," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been trying to make things right, to show you how truly sorry I am." "But you can't undo the past," he replied, closing the distance between them. "Each lie adds to the pain, and it's difficult to trust again. I need time to heal, to figure out if there's still something left between us worth fighting for." Her eyes widened as he spoke, a flare of rage igniting within her. "You're asking for more than I can give," she said, her voice bitter. "I cannot keep living like this, always questioning, always wondering." "Then perhaps it's best we part ways," he said, feeling the tears gathering at the corners of his eyes. "I can't kid myself anymore, pretending that things are all right. Our love is built on a shaky foundation, and I refuse to stand there waiting for it to crumble completely." In silence, they stood face to face, the chasm between them growing wider by the second. He could see the hurt on her face, the fear of the unknown gnawing at her soul. But it was too late for them to turn back now.
Thanks for watching. Don't miss more stories of betrayal and drama. Subscribe and stay tuned.